Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Mark 1 Tower, this is Albatross 1-3, requesting permission to land, over.
I don't need a computer to tell me how to land a damn airplane.
6.
Heads-up display, check.
5,
Lasers, check.
4,
Particle beam, check.
3,
Proton bolts, check.
2,
Chair control, check.
1.
Let's do it.
Broadcasting from a secret underground location somewhere in Mos Eisley. This is the Docking Bay 77 podcast. Make yourself comfortable. The show is about to start.
What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly.
Hey, Ernie, roll tape on this.
You got it, Del.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to Docking Bay 77 podcast. I am your host, Dayton Johnson, and we're doing a special episode. Welcome to a quick review of the brand new album from Metallica. They just released 72 Seasons on Friday, April 14th. I've been excited for this new album for a while. They did listening parties both at independent record stores and also at select movie theaters. To help build anticipation, they also released 4 singles, which I was super excited to hear. Get ready, souped up and ready for the new release. So I thought it'd be fun to spend some quality time listening to the record and express my thoughts. My very good friend and artist, John Wright, has joined me, and we're going to let you know what we think about this new release. How's it going, John?
It's going well, man. It's going well.
Let's enlighten the people as to what we think about this. So you have any opening thoughts before we get into specifics?
Opening thoughts. I've been on a couple chats about this album since I got it Friday morning. Listened to it probably 3 or 4 times all the way through, and I will say that is the most I have listened to Metallica CD in a very, very long time.
Okay.
I have not been particularly thrilled with a lot of their output as of late. That being said, this is a pretty damn good album.
Right.
You know, but we can expand on that in a couple minutes. But overall, I was. It's not quite what I was hoping for.
Yeah,
but it definitely meets my expectations.
Okay. All right. That's cool. Yeah. See, I own all their studio albums with the exception of Load and Reload. I'll never go down that road. And I have a copy of Saint Anger. So I don't have an actual original version. I have a copy of Saint Anger, but, I loved Hardwired. I thought Hardwired was a great record. So building on that, I was hoping this album would continue what they did right on that one. And I think they did. I like this album quite a bit. There are only a couple of songs that I think will have to take time to grow on me. There are a lot of very, very good riffs, very good songwriting, and there's some really, really great lyrics. You can tell that James really got personal with his lyrics this time, and I think he was very successful in conveying emotions and what he's been going through during his rehab. So overall, the album, I think, flows really well. It's definitely has a strong opening. The first 3 songs are really solid, and I'm not a big fan of how the record ends. I think they kind of picked the wrong song to end on, but that's okay. Maybe they just needed to swap out a few. So anyway, what we're going to do is I've picked about 3 songs that I specifically want to mention, and we're going to go back and forth and kind of share our thoughts. My first song, Shadows Follow. The main riff is really, really cool. I love the chorus. It works well. Yeah. I like how the chorus also kind of builds. The tempo change bridge is really cool with its guitar harmonies, and it leads really, really well into Kirk's solo.
I will say that the downside to this album for me are the first 3 songs. And it's not that they're bad songs. They're actually really good songs. It's just they're very, very similar. very similar when you sit down and like analyze them. One thing I feel like they've become guilty of, and they're not the only band to do this, so I'm not ragging on Metallica, is there is a lot of what I call quote unquote recycled riffs. A lot of this feels like it came out, music wise, feels like it came out of the hardwired writing sessions.
Okay.
Lyric wise, not so much. Now that being said, that's kind of their MO. You know, their first three albums they released when they were starting out, pretty much format wise,
Right.
structure wise, were all the same. So that's how they do. You know, I do like Shadows Fall was a great surprise for me because having heard the first four singles and kind of getting a little burnt out on the first four singles because if I put random on my Amazon or Spotify, those things came up. I could not escape them. And they're not bad. I just got burned out on them. So this one was a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
It is a good song. There's some definite Thin Lizzy influences I found throughout this album with solos and stuff, especially the harmony solos.
All right, I hear that.
And there's some definite Motorhead influence as well.
Yeah.
There always has been, but as they've changed styles and changed sounds, it's becoming a little bit more, in my opinion. They're a metal band. There's nothing wrong with what they do, but to label this album as thrash and or prog, I think you're going down the wrong street. I've heard a lot of people call it a prog album. It's not.
No, I think it's just another metal album that, you know, it's just another step in their evolution. And yeah, I wouldn't understand a prog. That I don't get.
I think the reason they call it prog is because there's so many time changes on it within the songs. But that's all it is. It's time changes. It's not like a style change in the middle of a song, or it's not like a different riff. They just slow it down or speed it up.
Yeah, I mean they've always had tempo changes, so I don't.
But there are a lot of them in these songs.
That's true. That is true.
There are, you know, and that I think my only other real dig against the album is I still am not a fan of Lars's bass drum sound. It sounds. It's better than it has. I need more oomph to it for myself.
All right.
But I don't. Yeah. They got
at least it's not the snare from Saint Anger.
It's not the racquetball. No, it's not the racquetball. They got rid of the compression on this album, which is a very nice thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, sonically, this is probably the strongest album they've put out since the Black album.
Okay.
Just sound wise.
Okay.
You know. Lyric wise, music wise, that's another debate, but you know.
All right, cool.
I really dig You Must Burn.
Oh, okay. All right.
That one, if you're a fan of the Black album, this is sad but true. This album's sad but true.
All right, I feel that.
It's got that dum bum bum. It's got that rhythm throughout the entire song. It's a slow, sludgy, drudging song, and those all sound negative, and it's not. But yeah, this one was a nice surprise. I was like, when I was listening to it yesterday, I was going for a walk, and I'm like, I'm listening to it, and I'm like, is this, you know? I'm like, this is sad but true, and that was one of my favorite songs from the Black album.
Okay.
So yeah, that's probably why this one, you know, that in the lyrics, you know, it's. I read an interview or I read another review by somebody, and they're like, you know, James is talking about burning witches. I'm like, I've never seen anybody take lyrics so literal in my life. You know, this is a song about being rejected by society, or being rejected by a peer group, or being rejected by quote unquote friends.
Yeah,
and that resonates with me. It's something that's always going to resonate.
Yeah, I know he spent a lot of time with his rehabilitation and his therapy and looking inward, and put a lot of that into his lyrics on this record for sure. I was gonna say Hardwired had a lot of other stuff in it, you know, kind of subjective lyrical content where you can kind of make up what you'd want from it. This one, I think you can really hear what he's talking about and his feelings and his emotions, instead of the fantastical stuff, which I think Hardwired had a lot of, as opposed, I mean, their early albums did too. He would tap into some of his feelings, but this is very, very personal as far as lyrics are concerned. So I don't think he's going to burn witches. So I don't understand where
Yeah,
that person got that.
yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, overall, his lyrics are really good on this album.
Yeah,
There are some deliveries of the lyrics that I'm like, probably not the best way out. They're probably not how I would have done it.
gotcha.
He repeats some certain lines in songs, and it just seems kind of like this was done just to make it fit. And I'm like, there's probably a better way to do it, but it doesn't. So, I mean, and that's listening to it with a critical ear. You know, most people probably aren't going to listen to it with that critical of an ear, especially right
Okay.
off the bat.
Okay.
So
I definitely wanted to mention Chasing Light. That was one that really kind of caught me off guard and was in a good way. The main riff is just awesome, I think. The tempo changes throughout the song are very well placed. No one section goes on too long. You know, I think they know just when to end it and move on to the next section. It has a nice groove to it when it's not really up tempo. And I noticed throughout this album that when it wasn't up tempo, it had a groove.
yeah,
And I think back when they did the Black album, they even said, you know, we're going to do something simpler with a groove to it. And I feel that this album does that groove way better than they did on the Black album. So I'm glad they kind of learned from that. I think this song has Kirk's best solo in it. And I did notice throughout the record, and most of the tracks, they made a section for Kirk's solo. Most of the time, it wasn't just like they just finished a chorus and he went right into it. They would create a section where there might be a bridge or just a change in tempo, change in something, and they would let him go, and then they would go back to the original thing. So I thought that was kind of nice that you could hear for most, not every song, but most of the tracks have a definite section for his solo. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I like this one too. The one I was going to mention, and you kind of jumped ahead of me on that, is I was going to mention the track before it, Crown of Barbed Wire.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah,
I like that one.
Yeah, it's different. It's not quite what what I expected out of them this time around. I don't know, lyric wise, it's really strong.
Yeah.
Really strong lyrics. And that was my second standout track. Now the
Okay.
one you mentioned, you know, Chasing Light was good. And I was looking at the lyrics, listening to the lyrics and stuff of that. You know, when we recorded the anthems episode a couple weeks ago that's going to drop soon. One of my anthems, I had Inner Sandman originally picked as an anthem, and I changed it during the course of the recording, and you'll have to listen to find out what I changed it to. And it's not a slam against Inner Sandman. It's just, you know, I got to thinking about it and doing research on that song. I learned that James had an entirely different set of lyrics to Inner Sandman when they demoed it first, and it was about the destruction of a family.
Oh,
and that's kind of what I was getting out of, you know, Chasing Light, where he's like, you know, he keeps referring that he's just a boy, and, you know, destruction of the family and stuff like that. So I can see that theme continuing on. And James, if you know anything about his upbringing and stuff, he had a pretty messed up upbringing.
Yeah, to say the least, you know, so much so. I mean, there are Christian Scientists where he, you know, wasn't even allowed to take aspirin. I know his mom died of cancer, and she wouldn't even go to the doctor and do treatments. And so, yeah, it was, for sure. It was, but yeah, if you really want to get a good history on the band, there's a book out there called Enter Night, and it's a fantastic read, and a lot of good information in there. And so the writer doesn't spend the whole time kissing their ass. He actually is quite honest about a lot of things. So that's kind of a nice turn. So, but yeah. Anyway, another one I really liked that I almost kind of wish was they moved it down a little lower to make it one of the end songs, is Room of Mirrors. This one, I love how it opens in less than 40 seconds. And you've already had a nice little preview of the rest of the song. Like they hit multiple riffs already and giving you a nice sample. The main riff is super solid.
Yeah.
This is quickly becoming one of my favorites on the record. It has a cool pre-chorus and a very, very cool chorus. It's a total jam all the way through. It's 5 minutes and 33 seconds. It's just a great song all the way through. And it just has that, it has that old Metallica feeling at the same time being current. So I think that's why I really, really like that song.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair assessment of the song. And again, that's another one that, having not heard it before, getting to listen to this, it's definitely a really good song. I like it quite a bit. And then I know I kind of ragged on the singles that they issued, but my one of my other picks was I'm really digging If Darkness Had a Sun.
Yes. It's a great song. I actually liked all the singles. I just didn't want to talk about them for the most part just because you're right. They were on the Spotify playlist. I actually put them on my playlist just so I could hear them pretty frequently before the record came out. So
Yeah.
yeah, when I went to the album, I was like, oh yes, okay, I'm familiar with this one. I'll listen to it, but I'm really looking forward to the next track. But yeah,
This
no, Darkness Out of Sun is a strong song.
Yeah, I have not skipped anything on this album during the listen through to get ready for our little talk here tonight. This is the one that I constantly pay attention to of the four that were released. This is, in my opinion, I really like Lux Eterna, but
Right.
I'm fried out on it because I've heard it so much.
Well, it was the first one.
Yeah, this is the one. I'm like, okay, this is a good single. This is a really good solid track. And that would probably be my third.
Okay. All right. That's cool. All right. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to mention before we go ahead and give it a rating?
I thought it was interesting when I was reading about what was coming out on the album. They're like, Metallica's got an 11-minute song. In the back of my mind, I'm like going, "Good God, Lars is going to die." Um, because I mean, again, no offense. I mentioned this in an earlier podcast. The dude looks like he is in so much pain when he drums anymore.
Yeah.
And I know that's just him. I'm hoping that's just him getting into it. I'm hoping it's not a physical ailment or anything like that. But this 11-minute song is not quite what I expected. It's
Yeah.
titled Immortia.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to say it. I will say one thing. The chorus kind of reminds me of My Friend of Misery.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And this is the song where, especially on the solos towards the end of the song, have a very, very heavy Thin Lizzy
yeah,
vibe to them. There's a Thin Lizzy song I hear at work constantly, and I can't think of what it is, but I'm walking yesterday and I'm hearing this. I'm like, damn, Kurt just ripped off Thin Lizzy hard.
well, you know what?
He's
If
been
you're gonna
known to
rip
do
somebody
that.
off, you might as well rip off Thin Lizzy. So
Well, they ripped off David Bowie and Master of Puppets. They've ripped off people right and left. It's a common practice.
right, right.
But this one, for an 11-minute song, and it's a slow 11-minute
Yes, it
song.
is. It's one of the two songs on here that I'm needing time to let marinate a little bit more.
That kind of surprises me because you usually go
I
for
love the long
burners.
yeah, I do very much. This one, I don't hate it. There's nothing about it that I'm like going, nah, I don't like this. I'm just
Mhm.
like, I'm trying to get a sense of what they were going for, I think, in this one.
I
And-
will agree with you earlier that this is not the best song to end the album.
No,
with, because
not
it
even.
stops. It stops and you're like, that's it?
Yeah. Well, it's just it's a very long end song, which sometimes works. I
Mhm.
think the two songs prior to this would have been a better choice.
Just flip the rotation on
Yeah.
a couple of these and you'd
Yeah.
be fine.
Yeah. So yeah, this one, yeah, I'm usually a big fan of the long ones, and this one I'm kind of like, I don't love it. I don't hate it. Like being gone through this a couple times. I'm not like, no. I'm like, I'm gonna let this marinate a little longer before I decide what I
and
truly feel about it. This is definitely a solid album for me. Like I said before, they took what worked on Hardwired and improved on it. I think a big leap comes from the personal lyrics that James brought to this album. I think it makes it better. There are no songs in here I hate. Like I said, the last one, I don't even know how to say it, but that
I
one,
believe it's pronounced Immortia.
that sounds right. That one is going to take some time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and give it a rating. Our options are Never Again, stream it, buy it used, buy it new, or vinyl worthy.
I'm going to say if you're cautious giving their last two outings, stream it, but it is worthy, in my opinion, of a new purchase.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it's really, really good. I say buy it new.
Yeah,
because it's one of their better efforts. I mean, like I said, I liked Hardwired a lot. I'm one of the few people that did like Death Magnetic, but this one is better than that. They I kind of feel like their last if you look at the last 4 records with Saint Anger, Death Magnetic, Hardwired, and this one, there's a definite progression in quality for sure.
Yeah.
So, and that's a good thing. That's all you can ask of people, is to just show improvement.
Yeah. I've heard it referred to that they're essentially becoming the new AC/DC, where you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And to a certain degree, that's true. But
I thought that was Nickelback that was just doing the same album over and over again.
Probably too, but I don't listen to Nickelback. But I will say, for doing the same thing, quote unquote, over and over again, this is the best version of that thing that they've had so far.
Yeah. I mean, side by side, this does not sound like Death Magnetic. You know what I mean? It definitely doesn't sound like Saint Anger, but there, like I said, there's a progression with the songwriting. So
it definitely, you can tell it's, I think that's my one drawback, is it's linked a little bit too closely to Hardwired. There's not enough of a separation, and there's probably never going to be. I mean, I read somewhere the other day where Lars says he sees the band continuing for about 10 more years, and that's it. That's his hopes, to go 10 more years.
Well, you figure there's only going to be maybe 2 more albums in those 10 years.
There's going to be one. Let's be honest.
Yeah, they're going to tour for 5 years.
They're not going to get 2 albums out. This band does not put albums out that quickly.
No, they don't. You're right. Not anymore. So, all right, cool. Thank you, John, for joining me for this quick review.
Sure, no problem.
And so let us know if you like the quick review, instead of going back and doing old ones. If you'd like to hear some new reviews for new albums, let us know on social media. We are on Twitter at DockingBase77Pod, on Facebook at DockingBase77Podcast. Send us an email at DockingBase77Podcast@gmail.com. Do yourself a favor, listen to more music. And remember, physical media is better than streaming. The Docking Bay 77 podcast is produced and edited by Dayton Johnson, recorded with Rode Pod mics, the Zoom PodTrack P4, and edited on Audacity. Opening music provided by Eric Jason Brock. You can find him on YouTube and Bandcamp. Thank you for listening.